Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Sam. I'm the state coordinator.
Okay.
This is Anthony Gemma, who is running for Congress. And I guess we'll just start off with our first question.
Sure.
So, what is your plan for creating jobs and bringing America out of this economic crisis?
Okay, so I'd like to talk in detail about the plan because I have a specific jobs plan that I'm very passionate about, worked a lot of time on it, and I think it deserves a good amount of time and your attention. I've created a job plan that will create 10,000 jobs in Rhode Island specifically. It's a plan that rolls up nationally, so it's a national program connected to the one of the ways it connects is the Infrastructure Job Act. But specifically, I've done a tremendous amount of research. I'm the only candidate in the race that's created jobs in the private sector. I'm the only candidate that's created jobs, as I see it, with due respect to them. And that's both on the Brendan Doherty side and the David Cicilline side. I have, the research that I have, I'm going to talk about 5 pillars, which I think Rhode Island's economy can be rebuilt on, and it starts from the areas of strength for Rhode Island. So health and wellness is the first area. Health and wellness is the plan that I've written on my first run for Congress. It specifically is an area of 12.98% growth in that area countrywide. Rhode Island, since the last election, it's been Rhode Island's #1 area of job growth is health and wellness. I define health and wellness very broadly. Health and wellness is, to me, I look at it as an economic driver of the state. It includes not only the things that you traditionally know as health and wellness, but it also includes the manufacturing of health and exercise equipment, yoga mats, supplement pills that people would take for exercise. We have some of these successful companies already built in Rhode Island. In Warren, we have Water Road Company, which does water running equipment, which they export internationally. We also have manufactured supplement pills. So these health and wellness is the area. I believe that we should be doing a cluster job creation model, which have been successful in other areas. But specifically, I was looking in the last election, I don't think it's doable now, as 195 corridor is that cluster area. So health and wellness specifically, strongest area with probably the most potential for our state. It's an area where we can become that could be the new industry. We were known for a jewelry industry years ago, but we could be known as the healthcare capital of America. We have to be known for something, and I think that we should be going down that road. So the second area, that's the first area. The second area is education. Now, education is different than, yes, we need to educate our kids and our adults. Now, we need an adult education program as well. But when I talk about education as it relates to job creation in this realm. So education, to me, would mean increasing enrollment for higher education, and specifically Brown. So you would add 1,000 or 2,000 students in Brown, and lead to the economic output of that. There's more students renting homes and more students that are coming from outside the area that are now buying and using the goods in the state. So I talk about education as a second area of job creation, and please separate that out in your mind from the education that you all know we're going to be talking about as well. The other area, another area is actually alternative energy. As president, I was president of Gemma Plumbing, helped bring the company from $4 million to $44 million during my time as president. I specifically trained our staff very significantly in all of the alternative energies, so from wind, solar, geothermal, to cogeneration power. Our facility uses clean burning product. We reinvest all the waste oil from the trucks that we're burning that to heat the facility. We also have photovoltaics on the roof. So not only do we teach, but we also practice what we preach in that area. So alternative energy is another area. Advanced manufacturing. 40,000 people have lost their jobs in the last decade in Rhode Island, specifically in the manufacturing sector. So when I talk about job creation, as I look at it as a problem, I have 2 problems in my mind. One, assuming that, and I think we're going to be the majority party, the Democratic, I believe that we're going to win back the House. It's my belief. So, but let's assume that we do not win back the House.
We hope.
Yes. Let's assume we do not win back the House. I'm your congressman, so I'm a freshman congressman because I hear this often, and there's congressional gridlock. The job plan that I've written assumes those 3. Assumes that I can't get a dime from the federal government, and I can't move the ball anywhere in Washington. So I come back here, and the plan I've created actually reaches out to foundational money and private money, because the number one problem we have here is to put people back to work. And that's about growing the pie. So all the different areas of investing in alternative energy, all the things that we're talking about, don't happen without job creation. And that's the number one area that I'm focused on. Assuming we can get past the congressional gridlock that's happening, it will actually, the plan will actually go faster. I say I'm going to create 10,000 jobs in 5 years. The plan that I've written, in my opinion, what I'm telling the public is 10,000 jobs. What you have on your camera right here, and you can play in 3 or 4 or 5 years, I'm going to probably create 30,000 jobs. I've identified 41,300 jobs specifically if we were to invest and focus that exist in Rhode Island with focus. So 50 jobs here, 1,500 jobs at the port, 750 jobs at the casino, and I've identified all the areas. So with very specific focus, we can uncover and create all of those jobs. So other areas of growth is travel and tourism is a job creation. So this is another pillar in which I would build our economy on. Travel and tourism is a better place, and Congressional District 1 is the place for this because it has the most coastline, has the most destination for travel and tourism. Not to say other parts of the state aren't important, but that's pretty much the area. The other one is infrastructure. So I'm heavily in favor of investing in infrastructure. Money is as cheapest now as ever before. We should not, we still have to fix a road and bridge. It has to happen. If we're going to do it in 2 or 3 years when interest rates are higher, it just makes no sense. And we should be doing it now. One of the last areas is the marine industry. I mean, it's one of our strengths. We should be investing in the marine industry here, and that's from boat building to aquaculture. Those are our strengths. So those are the pillars in which we rebuild Rhode Island. So now you're going to say, well, you sound like a governor. So let me dial it up for you. The connection to the infrastructure bank. The infrastructure bank, as you may know, legislation that can happen at the federal level, which helps each state individually reinvest in areas that it can help to create jobs, or however they want to invest that money. Certainly we need help in roads and bridges, and I'm here to tell you that's a certainty. However, when I'm tasked, and my number one function in my head, and I'm creative and I'm innovative, is to create jobs. Where I want to create jobs, where I believe jobs are already proven, is the historic tax credits. So I would take infrastructure bank money, use it in the areas I specifically just talked about, but specifically attaching it back to historic tax credits. So now I'm challenged with, so it's federal money, federal program, reinvesting in historic tax credits. Specifically, Rhode Island we've already been successful here. We've done historic tax credits in Rhode Island. Rhode Island invested, I think, over $120 million back when we had them. It created 8,000, this is specific quantifiable evidence now. It created 8,000 construction jobs. And by the way, the number one unemployed right now in the workforce is over 40% of unemployed men and women in our state are construction workers, an area that's near and dear to my heart because that's what I grew up with. I've been doing plumbing since I was 10 years old. So, but it is the area we have to focus to get those men and women back to work. The historic tax credits then created 3,000 permanent jobs. Its economic output was for every dollar the state invested, it produced $5.4 back in economic output. And the number one thing that it did, which cities and towns are struggling, as you hear this, it's supposed to be the year of the cities and towns, right? So what I'm very tuned into is when you fix a blighted building that's not paying taxes or paying less taxes, and you invest in historic tax credits, what happens at that point is that building now is paying taxes, so that helps the municipality. So it can't be any more of a win-win-win-win, and I'm not trying to bore you, but I've thought of this ad nauseum to the point where, what can I do to help the state in a way that other people are not thinking of? And I will say this, I'm kind of wrapping this together in the jobs realm. Success, this comes out of Harvard. Success, probability of success in any system, in any municipality, state government, federal government, and in an organization. And I own 12 different organizations, myself and my family own 12 different businesses here, and all of them are suffering in some way because of our lack of these things. It takes 3 things. It takes leadership, it takes vision, it takes a plan. When you add those 3 things together, the probability of success is high. So, if you're lacking any one of the three, we're not going to get anywhere. And I ask you, if you think about it, and it's a rhetorical question for you to think about, do you think we have the right leaders in place? So I feel that, I'm obviously running, I do not feel we have the right leaders in place. In some areas we have okay leaders, in other areas we have, not so good leaders in my opinion. So I think that our probability of success in those areas when we have bad leadership, we're destined to fail. So let's say, for the sake of argument, we all agree that we have okay leaders. I ask you what the vision is. What's the vision of the state right now? What's the vision of the different cities that are struggling? And now I'm going to tell you that there's not. I've asked specific mayors, I won't mention any names, and they look at you like you have 18 heads. What is the vision of your town and your city? Then let's assume that they can articulate a vision. Where they fail is a plan. What's the plan? So I specifically bring those three skill sets to the table. I have a vision. I'm a good leader. I've created some very successful organizations, from the plumbing company to the Breast Cancer Foundation to now a media company that I've created. I also bring a specific vision for our state and our country, and I specifically have a plan. So any other candidate that comes in here, I ask you, please show us your jobs plan. And you will get blank stares because they don't have one. So in my opinion, they're not telling you the truth because they don't have a plan. So feel free to ask questions along the way. I'm sorry. I wanted to give you the full deal plan.
So we have a couple follow-up questions on the economy.
Sure.
Do you believe that now is the time for fiscal stimulus or austerity? And what fiscal stimulus or austerity measures would you propose specifically?
Okay. So I'm very, very concerned. I've done a tremendous amount of study now into the federal deficit. We are in a crash course. I know you've heard this time and time again. But specifically, in 10 years from now, by 2022, the federal deficit is going to balloon to the fact that we're going to be paying about 12% of every budget dollar is going to be paid to interest only. So we're on an unsustainable course. And it's not about no child left behind, in my opinion. I don't mean to be cliche, but it's about no child left to die. We're really on a crash course. So we must, in fact, help and take down the deficit. I'm very passionate about a deficit reduction. At the same time, and I am certainly about cutting, fraud, waste, and abuse. I'm about getting very efficient in government, and there's a balance to that. But very specifically, and it comes back to the job side. If we grow the pie, and there's more money being people paying taxes, there's less pressure on we're going to be able to pay back the deficit quicker. We're going to have less. We're not going to be working in a deficit as much as we are now. So, thought about it long and hard. My number one priority would be to reduce the deficit, only because I don't think there's any other alternative because we're on a crash course. With that said, I will say this, and please feel free. Both Republicans and Democrats have agreed and know that the deficit must be handled. It's how they're going to handle it is the difference, and what makes me a Democrat. So, if the way you look at it, and I'll just give you this, and you may know it, so please don't want to insult anybody. Republicans now are looking for tax cuts. They're looking to make changes in Social Security and Medicare. Democrats have, and I look at that as the wrong approach. The Democrats now are looking at a more balanced approach. They're looking at additional revenue by sunsetting many of the Bush tax cuts. And they're also looking at not making changes to Social Security and Medicare. I believe that's the right path, and I don't think it's been any more distinct in the last 20 years anyway. Than if you want behind door number one, you should vote Republican, and if you believe the vision of our state to move forward behind door number two, Democratic way is much more balanced, and I think it's the right approach.
So we have a third follow-up on the
I
economy.
might be here for a couple hours.
Well, I think this is the most important question.
And I'm sorry, you had a question. I apologize.
You answered it.
Okay. So, do you believe that we should use quantitative easing to stimulate the economy and reduce the public debt?
I believe that some quantitative easing is okay. I'm concerned that if we continue to print money, that we will have we'll pay no price. We'll reduce the dollar more than it's already reduced, and I'm quite concerned. Again, it's about a vision, and it's about a plan, and I don't think just printing money, so to speak, is the right way to do it. I do believe that some of it is necessary to continue to keep our economy moving.
But it's all going to the banks.
It is going to the
It
banks.
should be going to the states and localities.
I agree with you 1,000% on that. And I think that the way it was a tragedy in how the stimulus dollars were spent the last time. Again, it was necessary, but I think that how we used the stimulus money specifically was, I'm sorry to connect to the stimulus, but was wasteful. And I'll give you an example. In Rhode Island, we used the stimulus money to plug our deficit. In Michigan, they were much more strategic about it with a plan. So they actually took their money, some of their money, and they invested in a hybrid battery engine plant. They created 750 jobs. Those jobs will be there for 20 years. Our money has come in and it's plugged the deficit, and is now, we're back in a pretty bad situation. So that's a lack of planning. So with the right plan, yes. With the wrong plan, no.
So,
Please, feel free to.
okay, so if I'm understanding what you're saying, that you are not gonna, you're for the ending the Bush tax cuts.
Not all of them. I'll give you, you want
We'll
specific?
get on to tax policy.
Okay.
I'd be happy to
But-
go into specific, I have
But
a,
what you're for is investing rather than cutting back. Because if you, I don't understand why the American people and American leaders do not look at Europe where they've tried the austerity and it's failed, just like the last 10 years has failed.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that our situation would be more like Germany than it would be like Greece, because we print our own money here. So when you understand some of the financial ramifications of that, if you do the research, you may go to work in the morning and bread's going to be double the price by the time you get home from work. That's different than what happened in Greece, again, because we print our own money. So it's, I know that some of it is necessary. I'm not saying the cuts and the cut in certain areas are not necessary. I do think that we do things haphazardly. So the Bush tax cuts, let me, if you won't mind, I'll give her this answer.
We'll get on.
Because I want to connect it. I will come back to you.
Okay.
I have a question about, you have a 6-pillar plan, if
Yes.
I heard correctly.
Correct.
One pillar of which is education.
Yes, education for job creation, not education separately. We're going to talk about education.
Got it. And if I heard correctly again, your proposal in the education sector was to have Brown expand to take in another 1,000 to 2,000 undergraduates.
Correct.
Have you talked to Brown about that?
No. If I was mayor of Providence, I would have not, and if I was under David Cicilline's watch, I would have not gone after extra money for Brown. I would have said, okay, we're looking not for extra money, but for you to grow your enrollment. And I would have done, first of all, I would have done the analysis on it. What is the economic output of Brown growing enrollment? So if they had 1,000 or 2,000 students, I mean, I think that we're all adults here, that you can kind of imagine that it's going to have a significant amount of impact for our state.
But why Brown? Why not URI? Why not?
I will get there. So
Okay.
I think that's, what I'm trying to do is, all of them. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, okay, we have a very significant problem now. And it can't be any more apparent to you because while other states have the unemployment has gone down, ours have gone up. That lack of vision now is catching up to us. I would start in areas where we're going to get the most help the quickest. So if you add 2,000 students to Brown versus 2,000 students to URI, there's a major difference in economic input. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I believe we should increase vastly the URI enrollment. But under the current model, it's a losing proposition because we actually are losing money per student. So analysis has to be done. When we add enrollment to Brown, they make more money. There's more students that are coming here, and they have disposable income for real. And they're spending a lot of money here.
If I can follow up on that.
Sure.
The reason URI is losing money per student is because state support for higher education has gone down for 40 years.
Yes. And I have a significant problem with the way we invest in our education system. I mean, you may know this right now, but or you may not. The United States is 16th in the world in education. How can that happen? How do we ever expect to be a dominant power? We're 16th in the world in education. It's
16th
laughable.
is actually optimistic.
Yeah, so if that's, if it's worse, think about it. We're trying to be the top in the world, and we were at one point. How can we accept 16th in the world in education? And I know you're going to get into the regular school system, not just undergrad, but other school systems. I'm mortified when I look at the stats. You should be too, the graduation rate of 50%. I mean, this is rare, you know, it's just, it's bad. It's as bad
But it's
as it can
gonna
be.
cost money to fix.
I know, but it's probably, in my opinion, I'm not trying to be argumentative, it's the number one thing we can invest our money in. Because all this job creation, if education, in my opinion, is the heart and soul of the whole thing.
Mhm.
All education, I can create jobs all I want, but I can't put people in the jobs right now.
No,
So that's the number one place where money has to come, has to go to every time we should be investing in education.
So I just wanted to hit on one point you made earlier, which is that the United States resembles Germany in that we can print our own currency. So obviously Germany right now is part of the euro system. So
Yeah,
I'm wondering
I'm going back.
specifically
I'm
you're
going-
comparing it to in the Weimar Republic
Yeah, I'm
during the
going-
hyperinflationary
Correct,
era.
yes.
Okay.
I'm going backwards, yeah.
I'm sorry, if I may, under the printing money. Are you using print money as the shorthand for the Fed's policies of expanding the money supply through the bonds?
Yeah. So it's a little
Okay,
bit-
just wanted to make
No
sure that
problem.
we weren't actually talking about literally Xerox machines.
Yeah, no.
So we have
We're on
10
that
more,
way, though.
we have 10 more questions and only a limited amount of time,
I'm
so
sorry,
we'll have to
okay.
move a little quickly.
Yep.
But I think the first one is a very important question, so I'll spend so long.